Welcome to a Made in India video series that's part of a special we're doing called Our Neighbors 2021, which is out now on all podcast apps. Last year, India saw issues with countries right across our borders, which at the time in 2020, where the whole world was suffering with a growing pandemic, I felt it was important to instill camaraderie and compassion rather than allow these geographic lines to divide us and dictate what we mean to each other. And of course, the best way I knew how was through music. So my mission was to discover some of the most incredible indie musicians from Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka and feature them on the podcast. And considering that we're not really able to travel, I wanted to take this opportunity to chat to them too. So take a listen to singer-songwriter, guitarist, and music producer from Nepal, who's now based in New York. Here's Diwas Gurung. So welcome, Diwas.
Hi, Mae.
Hi.
Thank you for having me on.
So we've done like a massive deep dive research. I found out a lot of things about you. I don't know how embarrassing they're going to be, but
Okay.
well, I'll ask you the questions and you tell me. So I know that you were really young when you picked up a guitar. You were about 10 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, that was one of my first. That was my first attempt. One of many failed attempts, I would say. Yes, I tried and I failed for a couple of times. And I mean, I wasn't seriously playing guitar until probably I was 16. So it took a couple of years.
I heard that you like sort of stopped in between, like you kind of gave up going, I'll never be, I don't know.
Yes, I did.
AC/DC, or I'll never be. Like, was there, why did you give up in between?
It was just incredibly hard, because you could do the basic chords, but there's this one chord, the F chord, which is like the hardest chord, and I just couldn't pass that wall, and I just gave up. And I was a kid, so I got distracted with other things.
Other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
You'd be like, I can't get the F chord. Where's my toy car? Little like Diwas, like rolling around trying to do stuff. Also, I found out that we have like one thing in common, which is that, I mean, we have many things in common, I think, but one in particular is that you're a boarding school kid. When you were in boarding school. I was a boarding school kid.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay.
So you were in boarding school. I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, but Budhanilkantha school, is that correct?
Budhanilkantha, yeah.
Okay, which is supposed to be near the Shivapuri mountain, right?
Yep,
right?
It's right on the base of the Shivapuri mountain range.
That sounds beautiful. That sounds really, like, it sounds like it's, you're kind of like surrounded by mountains anyways. It sounds really pretty. Was it nice? Did you enjoy boarding school?
I mean, my experience was a little bit different because my mother was the teacher there. So we lived so I grew up in the school itself. So even in the holidays when everybody would go home, like that was my home. So
you're like, I'm still at school, guys.
Yeah. But I mean, it was nice because I had the free reign of like, the school was empty. I could play basketball or play football with my friends. It's like the whole compound was empty. So it was kind of like idyllic in some sense.
Yeah, you kind of have the whole place to yourself. You're like, I'm playing basketball on my own.
Yes, exactly.
So I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy when I'm talking to artists is like, the first couple of bands that you were originally in. And there was a band that you formed, I think, just after high school called Mop Handled Mama.
Oh, yes. Wow. Yeah, that was like it was actually a reference to like a Pearl Jam song. I even forgot what it was. It was like a weird one of the weird ones they did. So that was something we thought it was funny and kind of we're like showing off that we're big Pearl Jam fans, I guess.
Oh, we're like, look how cool we are, man.
Yeah, exactly.
We're amazing.
Exactly.
But that also, I mean, you played a couple of live shows, and then I think that's how you met other members of the band, another band that you are in called Albatross, right?
Yeah, so actually it was the first gig we did. The only reason we formed a band was there was this one show that our friends were organizing, and they were like, "Do you want to play?" Because before that, all of our my playing was just in my boarding school, for all the shows and stuff. So we're like rock stars within the school.
Assembly and all.
Assembly hall, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it was like once we were out, we graduated, so we had to form like a official band. So that was it. And then what the first show we did, that's Albatross was the headliner, and right after that first show, like Sonny, who's the guitarist, and Ave was the bassist, they were like, "Oh, you guys are really good. We should do something." So that was really nice. We just clicked after the first show. Yeah.
And you also, I mean, so right now you're talking to me. Are you in New York right now?
I'm in upstate New York. So I moved from the city last year. So we were like a couple of hours north of New York City. So when the pandemic hit, we kind of left among like a lot of people who left the city. We're one of them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I do know that while you were studying in Ithaca, is that how they pronounce it? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. That you, again, another band called Ayurveda. I was like, come on.
Yeah, yeah. That was the name of our band.
Like, you had so many cool bands. Mop Handle Mama, Ayurveda.
Yeah, the Ayurveda thing was funny because, I formed with, it was all Americans, and for them that was such an exotic name. And, coming from Nepal, like it was everywhere. Like, and I was like, are you sure you want to us band? And they were like, no, this sounds cool. It looks cool when you write it, So, and then, I mean, that was the reason why we got it. But eventually, sort of, our singer, Tom, who's a lyricist, like, he really got into Ayurveda and yoga and holistic living and all that stuff. Yeah.
He actually got into Ayurveda and yoga.
Yeah,
so he was like, live in the band through the band name and everything the band name. That's super Inception stuff, man. That's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting how that all worked out.
So one of the things that I'm super curious about this because, a lot of like what we do on Made in India is that really interviewing artists and understanding the sort of independent music scene, like particularly in India. And I actually wanted to understand what it's like for you, because I think you also done quite a lot of work with other artists from Nepal, like Bartika, Rai, and Yugal. And Yugal we'd featured last year. Phosphines we featured last year as well. So I know that you're sort of connected with some of like artists that come from Nepal. And so I wanted to understand from you, what is the independent music scene in Nepal like?
So in many ways, like, I actually don't know how it is like physically in Nepal. Because I go there once a year, and that's for like a couple of months. And the indie shows are very few and far between. Like most of the shows, they are rock shows or like really like big pop events. And when I play my shows, it's like a mix of indie stuff, but I also have a lot of like folk fusion stuff that I do, and that's what has like the biggest audience. So like a lot of my shows tend to be more skewed towards like the folk music. But the Nepali indie community as a whole, I think it exists mostly online, because a lot of the people I met them first was online, and then a lot of our collaborations, they take place online predominantly. So like they would send me files, and we would it's mostly email, or maybe we'd get on a chat sometimes.
That's so interesting that like the internet has become this space where you have the ability to connect to other artists that are also from, whose origins are from Nepal. And I think that's really interesting because it keeps those sort of connections going. And I'm so excited to be able to feature Laijau on our Neighbors mixtape. And it's a really lovely song, and it's such an easy listen. And one of the things that we found out is that there's a really sweet story behind Laijau. So firstly, what does it mean?
Laijau, I guess translated, it would mean take me, like just take me with you. In the context of a song, it's just saying take me with you. Yeah. And Yeah, so that song is actually written by my father. The lyrics and the melody. He wrote
Did
that.
he have like a stage name? Obi
Yeah, Obi
Salty?
Solti. Yeah.
Salty.
So Solti means more like a you could describe it as like a cousin or like a brother. I don't know, because in Gurung language, Solti means like you're related somehow. So that was his stage name. And he
I
wrote
thought it was
that.
really cool. I was thinking some Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff, and I was like, Obi Salty. And I was like, wow, your dad's cool.
Yeah,
To have him
Obi
for
is
that.
literally for his name is Om. His first name is Om and his middle name is Bahadur. So Om Bahadur
Oh,
Gurung is his
that's where the
name.
Obi's coming from.
Yeah,
He's the
so
OG
Obi, so
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really cool. But he wrote this like a really long time ago in like the 70s or something, I think, right?
Yeah, it was before I was born. I was born in '83, so yeah, like late '70s. I would think my parents they just met, and he was I mean, he just retired now, but he worked for the Nepal Airlines, and back then he wasn't a pilot, but he was like a station manager. So he was stationed in DOLPA, which is a really beautiful part of Nepal. It's very like mountainous and really wide open spaces, and it was like a time in his life. I mean, when he talks about it, it was very inspiring, because he was in love and he was in this like amazing landscape. And Laijau, I think, is a culmination of those things that he wrote. And he wrote a bunch of songs in that period. Some of them I've done, but Laijau is definitely my favorite of.
It is. It's
couple of
beautiful.
them.
And I think there's like I definitely am not going to be able to say this line, but there is a particular line from the song that you really like that has the word malum in it.
Yeah. Yes. So it's
Because it's really close to Hindi, right?
yeah. I mean, it is a Hindi word because no, I asked my dad about that. It's like why is this? But he said in that era that was like that was hip to have say malum, and that was an influence of because back then if you were to work abroad, you could go as far as India. Like it's not like now where people go to US or anything. Back then it was like so it's like someone who works abroad, they pick up like phrases, Indian phrases, so when they come back, and that was like cool to say malum. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like bringing back those phrases made you kind of cool. It's like, I guess it's like the dude, like when you
Exactly.
come back from abroad and
Yeah.
everyone's calling you dude and you're like, calm down.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, this guy, he went abroad and come back and he's got like all this cool lingo.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your dad was a
So
cool dude.
yeah.
So, and again, I hope that we're living in these incredibly difficult times, and I hope that one day that we can travel, and if you and I made a trip to Kathmandu, and if I was to go there with you, where would be the first place you'd take me?
In Kathmandu,
Or anywhere in Nepal. I don't even know where you'd take me, but like,
oh wow, yeah. So
we're coming.
I would suggest like a lot of people if you want to see, depends on what you want to do. If you want to listen to music or if you want to go there for the nature, because if you want to go there to like see the pristine beauty, like I would say just try to leave Kathmandu as soon as you can. And I would take you to like the mountainous regions, and because it's mind blowing, and it's larger than life. Like you can't imagine like how amazing it is. For music, Kathmandu is definitely the hub for music. And there's a lot of places, but like I said, like the indie shows are very few and far between, because it's all like DIY still. Like there's no like big support behind them.
Yeah.
So I would just take you to see like some local bands, see what DIY shows are happening, and we could go there, check it out.
I'm totally game.
and,
So we can do
yeah,
a gig, eat
Yeah,
some food,
exactly.
and then go to the nature, wherever
Nature,
you're going to take me.
For sure. For sure.
That sounds amazing. Also, clearly, like your dad had brought back some Indian slang to, with malum, brought that back to Nepal. Let's do like an exchange, like the other way around. can you teach me some cool slang from Nepal so that when I land, like people think that, oh, this girl's like totally a Nepal girl. She gets it. So
Oh, wow.
can you teach me some cool slang? Or at least like a cool phrase that I can use?
I have to think about it because I'm not super cool as a as a Nepali speaker.
But
You could
something.
say-
I gotta learn something. I gotta land there. What happens if my flight gets there before yours does?
So
I gotta...
I guess I mean is so a word that you hear a lot is jepaite. Jepaite means it's like whatever, you know, like, but it's kind of like a using it in a slightly like negative connotation, but it's like, you know, it's like, or you could use it positive too. They'd be like, oh no, it's like, oh so if someone was to compliment my cooking, you know, I'd be like, oh, this is so cool. I was like, nah, I just put whatever in it. It's like it's jepaite. I put jepaite.
Jepaite.
Jepaite. So it means like
So,
whatever I found, you know,
Jepaite.
jepaite. Yeah.
So if someone tells me like, oh, you're looking really cool, Jepaite, I just threw this on. Like,
Yeah, it's jepaite like, or you'd be like, you know.
cool.
That's just
so
like
then
being like
I
nonchalant. Yeah.
when I get off the airport, when the security go when they're checking my passport and all that, we're like, Jepaite.
That would be
The guy
interesting
at the
to see
airport's
what
gonna be
would
like,
happen. Yeah, you'd be like,
you okay?
That would be pretty awesome if you said that.
Thanks, man. But I'm so excited, Diwas, and I'm thrilled that you can be part of Our Neighbors and Made in India. And I'm so excited for people to listen to your music. So thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and, you know, playing my songs and you know, playing other Nepali artists' songs. Like it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think for us, I mean, I feel honored, and I just feel like a bit of a music nerd. Like, I just listen to this stuff and I'm like, oh my God, this music's amazing. Should totally get it on the show. That's like how I'm thinking in my head all the time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Check out his song Laijau on Our Neighbors 2021 episode on Made in India. The link is in the description. And like, subscribe, and follow and all that. And also check out our other Made in India sessions on our YouTube channel.